Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to my show, High Road to Humanity. In every episode, I tell you powerful true stories filled with great wisdom that you can use in your own life as you strive for a higher road to travel. My featured guests will have their own unique stories to tell that enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
First touch, strong connection, it lays deep in your soul.
Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I have Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, here today, and I'm so excited he's with us. We're going to talk about his book, The Afterlife Frequency. And if you're watching me on YouTube today, I'm holding it up, and this is a fabulous book, guys. So we're going to go through a little bit of it today, and he's going to give us some information. So it's going to be a really great show. Listen, before I bring Mark on and give you all his information, I want to just mention that the motion for mistrial is looming as the jury deliberates Kyle Rittenhouse's fate. You know, it would be wrong of me because this is High Road to Humanity not to bring this up today. You know, so here's what it says right now. I picked this up maybe 20 minutes ago. So it says deliberations in Kyle Rittenhouse homicide trial continues on Wednesday with the defense request to have changes or charges tossed, still looming over the high profile Wisconsin trial. The case went to jury late Tuesday morning with Kenosha County Circuit Judge Bruce Schroeder having not ruled on defense request for a mistrial with prejudice to have charges tossed without ability for prosecutors to refile. Now, Rittenhouse's lawyers has said in court that they had planned to ask for a mistrial before filing papers on Monday, accusing the district attorney of prosecutor. Here we go. This is your
Is it prosecutorial misconduct?
overreaching.
Yeah,
and acting in bad faith. All right, so let's talk about this before I get into the whole. What do you think? What do you think, Mark?
I think that that's standard defense practice because here's the thing. With the prosecution, it's up to the prosecution. Oh, and for the benefit of your listeners, I am an attorney licensed in Florida, Washington, D.C. before the United States Supreme Court. I've tried over 100 jury trials as a prosecutor, criminal defense lawyer, and civil trial attorney. Long story short, the prosecution in the United States has the burden of proof. They have to prove each and every element of a crime beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. Okay. Theoretically, the defense has nothing to prove and the innocent have nothing to fear. And so that if the prosecution cannot meet its burden, then the jury has to find the defendant not guilty. All right, that's nice on paper. Now let's get to reality. Okay, this is a highly charged case. People are in one camp or the other on this. There's emotions running high. We have everything from Black Lives Matter to Second Amendment rights.
I know, it's crazy.
All these things, it's just crazy. And, I've heard a lot of African-American analysts saying, oh, well, now we're seeing, what's happening when white people get shot, and do white people have the right to carry guns over this and that? And then you're seeing the Second Amendment crowd saying, we have a right to do this. Then you have the anti-gun people saying, oh, this is terrible. This is why. So, okay, so there's a lot of, to say there's a lot of pretrial publicity here would be an understatement.
Well, yeah, and they judged him before he even got to trial. I have to say that.
Well,
the media, unfortunately.
The defense, what you do from the defense side is attack, and you always try to find a technicality, a procedural defect. Okay. And the prosecutor in this case, and I've watched little bits of it because I'm too busy with what I do to sit there and watch that all day long. And so accusing prosecutorial misconduct, that kind of goes without saying, especially in a case like this. Say, oh, they're overreaching, they're being this, and then dismissing with prejudice. Now what that means is if the judge grants the motion to dismiss with prejudice, that means it cannot be refiled. The likelihood of that happening are about as much as Nancy and I walking to the moon right now. Okay.
So you don't think that's going to happen?
No, it's not going to happen. It's possible that the judge could rule a mistrial, but then the case would have to get retried. But the reason why the defense files motions like that is in the event that it comes back guilty, then that's another issue they have to raise on appeal. What I found in this case, I think the judge was about as nasty a judge as you can be. I mean, I saw him biting everybody's heads off.
He was interesting. Well,
he was, but
yeah.
I'll tell you what,
What?
way back in the olden days of the O.J. Simpson trial, I remember Lance Ito, the judge there.
Yeah. I remember him.
yeah, that guy was a wimp.
Oh, God.
You guys really need to stop. This guy was like, I'm telling you.
Well, at least he's got some kahunas. I will tell you, I watched a little bit of it because I watched the 5 on Fox, sometimes in the afternoon when I'm done with some of my stuff. And when I actually saw what happened, because I had not paid enough attention to it. And I actually watched this kid, I'll just say this, and he was on the ground and they were kicking him and they were hitting him with a skateboard. And then a guy drew his gun. And then he was only 17. And I didn't realize that he was only 17 until I started to kind of pay a little bit more attention. And I think he was just scared to death and shot this guy. That's what I think. But they're trying to make.
On the other hand, he should not have been there
with the gun in the first place. I know.
What does he think? He's Rambo?
Well, but hold on. And we got to talk about your book. But the other thing I want to say really quick is they had footage of this kid and he was cleaning off graffiti and he was actually taking fire extinguishers and putting out the fires that these protesters were starting because there were no police. So I think he thought he was going to take the law into his hands. I think that's what he thought. He would be Superman and go out there and save the world. And he realized that that's not how life works. That's what I think.
It isn't. And I'd like to know where his parents were when he was loading
out there.
Up with automatic weapons to cross state lines, to interject himself in a situation that he had no business being part of.
I agree, but it's really an interesting, it's a crazy situation.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
We will see what happens. But I'll tell you, in the day and age of cameras, cell phones, surveillance equipment, we're seeing things that before we never really could. Because you see footage of him walking down the street, you see footage of him with the altercation lying on the ground. We're seeing things. And I remember when I was a prosecutor and the police were using video cams for drunk driving arrests. And, it really actually enhanced the quality of police work because before video cameras, the police could say anything in their report. Oh, the defendant was falling down drunk and this and that. And then all of a sudden you see an accurate representation of what was going on. And also, from the defense perspective, my client be like, I wasn't drunk at all. And then you see him like,
I know, right?
They're falling all over. And I'd bring him into my office and I'd say, all right, now this is the video. And they'd look at it and they go, oh my God. So the thing is with this type of evidence, it makes things better. Now, I recently saw how there's new programs out where they can impose somebody else's face on the body in a video. And it's like,
we're in trouble now. Yeah, Photoshop. Okay. But it's worse. It's beyond that.
But the thing is, and I want the listeners to understand, Nancy and I are not chiming in on one side or the other. We're simply analyzing the case. We're giving our opinions as to what happened. And the thing is, our jury system, these are the people that are sitting there that are watching and listening to evidence, and we have to have faith in our jury system. What I found about the case, and I believe that the defense, I think this may be part of one of their motions to dismiss, is how confusing the jury instructions were, because that's the part I did watch. Because that's always crucial, because as an attorney, either prosecutor or defense, you get up and said, his honor or her honor, or, depending on the case, read you instructions that said da-da-da-da-da. And if you find that, and I saw the defense and the judge read you the instructions that said this, and they may have made the same mistake, they meaning the district attorneys in Kenosha, that was made in the Casey Anthony case, in that they overcharged him.
I think so.
Like with Casey Anthony, everybody wanted her to get it, but they charged her like with premeditated first-degree murder, and And then the jury did not find evidence of premeditation, so they had to acquit. Whereas if they'd gone with either voluntary manslaughter and a lesser included charge of involuntary manslaughter, then the jury said, well, we can't find voluntary, but we can find involuntary. And maybe they should have done the same thing here, but only time will tell. And then, of course,
Yeah.
if there's a mistrial, we're going to be watching it all again in 6 months. So,
Well, I don't think there's going to be a mistrial, but I'll tell you one thing that really shocked me. And then we got to talk about your book because I love having you on, Mark, is that, I watched the prosecutor pick up this AR-15 and point it at the jury and put his hand on the trigger. And all I could think of was Alec Baldwin and how ridiculous this guy was to do this. Because if I was sitting in the jury box and this guy did that, I would be kind of freaking out. Anyway, that's just,
well, yeah,
I just thought that was obnoxious. And so I just wanted to bring that up. I was like, dude, really, come on, don't do that.
well, it's there's grounds for a reversal there, because that could be, it's what's called the golden rule argument. You can't say to a jury, put yourself in my client's position. Okay. So if you're pointing the murder weapon at them and you don't say it, okay, but does it have the same cognitive and emotive effect? So interesting points of speculation. So
well, yeah, I think it's crazy. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about this book, you guys. First of all, let me just say this book, and there's a couple points I want to make. It reveals how our electromagnetic soul is pure eternal energy, which never dies. And we're going to talk about that today. It takes spirit communication and near-death experiences and deathbed visions out of the shadows of superstition and into the light of the 21st century science. And it teaches you Mark Anthony's RAFT, he calls it the RAFT technique, to recognize contact with spirits, accept it as real, feel it without fear, and trust in the experience. It also provides hope for victims of grief, homicide, suicide, PTSD, and survivor's guilt. And this book also illuminates how contacts with spirits is a powerful instrument of healing and love. And we have to go to commercial break. This is Nancy Yearout. I'm here today with Mark Anthony. The book is The Afterlife Frequency. And this is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Mark Anthony, and I'm so glad you're here. Mark, in the beginning of this book, you do a dedication to Shirley MacLaine. And yes. I thought that was really cool. Talk about that for a quick second.
Well, and what's amazing, and I didn't expect it, is in Shirley's newsletter, the Shirleygram, which just came out in October, she recommended the book, and what a great honor.
Oh, wow.
And Shirley MacLaine was the first major celebrity to go public with her belief in psychic phenomenon, reincarnation, UFOs, and she wrote a book called Out on a Limb. And she was subjected to all sorts of ridicule. I mean, the media was on her, and she stood firm and she put up with it. And Shirley MacLaine just has had such an amazing career. And what I didn't put in the book was that I actually did a reading for Shirley MacLaine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was on tour. I was on a speaking tour of Buffalo, New York. And I was going to be in Buffalo and then in Lilydale, which is a spiritualist community. Mm-hmm. And so we're at our hotel, and my manager, Rocky, I hear her on the phone. She's like, yeah, right. She goes, really? She goes, Mark, Shirley MacLaine's assistant's on the phone, and Shirley wants to interview you for her radio show, Independent Expressions. And I'm like, what?
Oh, cool.
I go, when? She said, now. I'm like, now? and so they said, yeah. And so I got on the phone, and there's Shirley MacLaine. And I was supposed to be on for 20 minutes. But at the end of 20 minutes, Shirley said, Mark, I'm enjoying this so much. Do you mind if we stay longer? Well, It turned out to be 2 hours and 40 minutes. And for me, it was such a great honor. And she was asking really in-depth questions about
Mhm.
spirit communication. I mean, she's an absolutely brilliant genius level IQ person.
Mhm.
And somehow or other, we were talking about quantum physics, which is a big part of my book, The Afterlife Frequency. And
Right.
she said, well, I met Stephen Hawking. And I go, you did? Wow. And she said, yeah, I was in his office and there was a picture, two pictures on the wall, one of Albert Einstein and one of Marilyn Monroe. And I said, Stephen, I understand Einstein, but why Marilyn Monroe? And then she goes, and then this is what I said, and she imitated him. She goes, because her curves are more beautiful than a quantum singularity. And I'm laughing. And I said, well, that's really cool. I said, hey, Shirley, did you ever meet Marilyn Monroe? She goes, yes, I did.
Oh.
And she said, in fact, she said, Marilyn and I were up for the same parts. And the studios used to play us off against each other.
Oh,
It was really nasty. And she said,
interesting.
and I made some comment about John F. Kennedy, and she goes, oh, him. I go, you knew him? She goes, well, yeah, I was part of the Rat Pack. And I'm like, oh my God. John F. Kennedy's brother-in-law was Peter Lawford, who was in the Rat Pack. And she said, with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and
Yeah.
Shirley MacLaine,
Oh
and
my
she said
God.
that she was at the birthday party for JFK where Marilyn comes out and sings "Happy
Yeah,
Birthday."
yeah, that's my fave.
Well, she said, yeah, but she said Marilyn threw a fit backstage, and she said, "I'm not wearing that dress." And one of the producers said, that's okay, Marilyn, because Shirley MacLaine is here and she's the same size you are.
Oh
And
my
so Marilyn
gosh.
goes, fine, I'll do it. And so Marilyn came out and did that.
Did it? Yeah.
And then she said, after that, I got the part in this movie called The Apartment. And that movie, The Apartment, catapulted Shirley MacLaine from part of the Rat Pack and sort of a
Hmm.
secondary actress to a major movie star.
Right.
And she said, and so there we were at the premiere in Hollywood. And Marilyn shows up at the red carpet event, and it was hot that night. And Marilyn was wearing a full-length fur coat.
Oh my
And,
gosh.
and everybody was like, what's up with Marilyn? And so halfway through the movie, Marilyn gets out and walks to the bar in the theater. And so Shirley went out there and said, Marilyn, is everything okay? And Shirley said, Marilyn turned to me and opened her coat, and she was stark naked underneath it.
Oh my gosh.
And all right, now we're on the air. Okay, we're on the air. And then Shirley said, now that I think of it, Stephen Hawking had a point. And I'm laughing because
Oh my God.
and I said, I wonder what Marilyn would think about that. And Shirley said, well, you're the medium. You tell me. And
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
I know. I'm like, yeah, no pressure at all here, And,
Did
and
anything,
so
Mark?
I'm like, okay, I got to calm down. I'm like, okay, so I'm opening up my brain, to the
Oh
afterlife
my
frequency.
God. Oh my God.
And I said, okay. And so I go, I think this might be her. And I started describing her. She was, yes, yes. And I said, Marilyn was jealous of you, Shirley. She goes, really? She said that you could walk through a crowd with such grace and elegance, and she always felt garish and conspicuous. She goes, well, that is something Marilyn would say. And then I said, and she wants to thank you for taking the high road
Oh
and
my
not
God.
doing it and not doing it. And
Oh my
Marilyn and
God.
Shirley said, oh my gosh. She goes, thank you, Mark. I go, I don't fully understand. And she said, Mark, after Marilyn died, she had been working on a movie and it was unfinished. And the studio said, well, Shirley, why don't you, we'll just redo the movie and put you in it. And she said, I won't do that. I can't do that to my friend.
Right. She took the
She
high
said,
road.
right. So Marilyn was acknowledging that. And then she said, did Marilyn kill herself? And the answer was no. She said she was so depressed. She couldn't handle the garishness. She couldn't handle like everybody wanting her. She was just done. And then I said, there's somebody else here. Oh my gosh, she's beautiful. And she's got these like violet colored eyes. And before I could say anything, Shirley goes, "Oh, Liz
Liz
Taylor was
Taylor.
my dearest
Yeah.
friend." And then, Nancy,
Yeah.
I realized I'm on the phone doing a reading for Shirley MacLaine while I'm connecting to the spirits of Marilyn Monroe and Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to top that one.
Wow. That's amazing. What did Liz say? Did she say anything that?
Liz just came through basically to say hi. She was happy that Shirley was doing this. And then toward the end of the call, I had to ask. I said, "Shirley, can I ask you something?" "Yes, Mark, whatever you would like." I said, "Did Carly Simon really write the song You're So Vain about your brother Warren Beatty?" And she said, "I'll never tell, but that is the conventional wisdom."
That's cute. I love it. I love it, Mark. Now, when was that? What year was that you did that with her? I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I was on the Evidence of Eternity tour. So that was, I believe, in 2016. 2016. Yeah, that was in 2016.
Wow. What a wonderful thing that you got to do. You know, I want to talk a little bit, you guys, about this book. And the reason that it really hit home with me is I'm into energy and I wrote a book on energy, and you put the energy together, you put the scientific together with the spiritual in this one. And it's time that we do this because everything is energy. You talk about synchronicity, and I'll just read a couple quotes. One I wrote down is, "Life is energy. It's impossible to destroy energy. Therefore," a priest said this actually, "therefore the energy of life cannot be destroyed."
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. And also, you say experiences in life are not random. There is a reason why everything happens, and there are lessons to be learned from all the experiences. Talk about some of this stuff. Talk about energy. Talk about how life is set up for people so they have an idea.
Well, that's a whole book. Energy. See, in our fields, Nancy, we hear everyone like, "Oh, everything's energy. My energy's this, my energy's that." And they're right. Everything is energy. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, we know from science that everything's made of molecules, which are in turn made of atoms, which are composed of smaller particles known as electrons, protons, and neutrons.
Mhm.
And those particles are made of yet a smaller one, a quantum. Ergo, quantum physics. Technically, for all the science people, electrons are quantum. Okay, they're just negatively charged. And a quantum is a particle of electromagnetic energy. So that means everything in our material world dimension is on the subatomic level electromagnetic energy. And we
Mhm.
also know that everything on the subatomic level vibrates. All energy vibrates. So this pen that I'm holding here on the subatomic level is vibrating. But then again, so am I. And so are you, Nancy. And so
Mhm.
are the radio waves this show is being broadcast on. So is the light that we're seeing. So are the grains of sand on the beach, the air, the nuclear reactions in the sun. Everything on the most basic level is energy. So
Right.
when people say that, "Oh, this is energy," well, yeah, everything is. And so everything has its own unique frequency. And what's fascinating is I've seen this in belief systems around the world. When I was in Hawaii and I was working with the kahuna, the priests, they talk about everything has mana. Everything has its own vibration. They call it
Right.
mana.
Right.
And it's fascinating that belief systems worldwide basically we're saying this, and within the past century, quantum physics is now proving that. So that's how everyone and everything is interconnected. And one of the important terms that I developed in the book, well, how are we doing on time before a
Well,
break?
we're going to go to commercial break because I'm doing this
Okay.
for the podcast too. So you can talk more about it when we come back. You guys, the
All
book
right.
is called The Afterlife Frequency. It's the scientific proof of spiritual contact and how that awareness will change your life. And it's by Mark Anthony. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Mark Anthony, and I'm so glad he's here today. We're talking about the afterlife frequency. We're talking about energy. Mark, continue on. Talk about the electromagnetic soul and tell people what that is.
Yeah, the electromagnetic soul, the EMS, is what we really are, which is pure consciousness, a soul of spirit that is eternal electromagnetic energy.
Right.
Every great spiritual teacher, from the Hindus 5,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians, Moses, Zoroaster, Buddha, Jesus, all the way up into the present day, have all explained that who and what we are is the soul, and that the soul pre-exists the body, comes into the body, and then moves on after the body dies.
Right.
We know from the laws of thermodynamics and physics that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transferred from one form to another.
Right.
We know from neuroscience, which is the study of the human brain, that the brain operates on chemical reactions and electrical impulses. And we know that the brain has, as physicists describe it, a quantum electromagnetic field. So after years of research and thousands of readings, I developed the term, the EMS, the electromagnetic soul, to explain that we're pure consciousness, which is eternal electromagnetic energy. And once you understand that, it begins to help you understand not just other forms of spirit communication, but things like near-death experiences, deathbed visions, shared death experiences, because when we die, our body may cease to function, but our EMS is coherent, and it's like a drop of water. It leaves the host, our brain, and plunges into the eternal sea of consciousness,
Can I
which I
stop
call
you?
the collective consciousness.
Yes.
Go
Can
ahead.
I ask you a question? Because I always
Sure.
wanted to know this. Sorry, Mark. While you're
No,
talking.
go. That's what I'm here for.
Well, okay. So here's the deal. So I understand, and you talk about it in your book, like when your dad passed, you saw his light like go up.
Yeah, but okay.
Okay, well, hold on. I just need to understand this. So when you die, here's where I'm confused, and I need to get this. You guys, first of all, don't be afraid to die, because you're still alive. You don't go anywhere. You just change form. You're in a different form. So you come out of your body, and a lot of people I've heard, I've interviewed, say they shoot right up and then they see their loved ones and everything's cool. But then I've had a lot of people come to me and they're stuck. They're in between. And I help them go to that light. How come some people, like, I don't understand how it works. Like when I read your book and you said your dad's light shot right up, I was like, oh, well, then maybe everybody shoots up. So do you see my confusion?
Yeah, because here's the thing. I don't believe in they're stuck here. And
What
I
is-
know.
Okay, talk to me about this, because I don't get it.
Yeah, well, because once we die, we revert back to a purely energetic state, and we know this.
Right.
Now, I realize that there's this departs, because I hear this from other mediums that, there's wounded souls and they travel the earth. There's three schools of thought on that. One is that people are trapped here, which I completely don't believe.
Yeah, I don't believe that either.
Secondly, there are spirits who do return quite frequently to a particular location. And they may do that to visit a loved one, or maybe it was the site of a traumatic death, and for whatever reason, they come back. But you have to realize that we're pure consciousness, and that when we leave our body, we become connected with something infinite, which is the collective consciousness. Okay. And it's like in hauntings, there's three schools of thought. One, that they're stuck here. Once again, I don't believe that. Two, that they visit. Or three, that it's a residual energy echo. And that's the one I really subscribe to. In a residual energy echo, matter retains vibration. So when there's like an intensely traumatic event, it's an echo. In other words, what you're sensing, and it feels and appears to be like a spirit, but it's no more a sentient spirit than your reflection in a mirror is you. And I have I was in England, and it was St. Patrick's Day, and it was a miserable, cold, rainy day. And I asked my English colleagues, because I was there studying supernatural phenomenon, so what do you guys do on St. Patrick's Day? They go, nothing. So I thought, all right, well, I'm going to do my own thing. I don't want to get into the whole England, Ireland thing, but
okay, right.
So I went to the Tower of London. All right. And the Tower of London, it was a palace if you were in royal favor, and it was a prison if you weren't. And so I'm walking around the courtyard, and I'm in history buff's paradise. I'm loving this. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, Anne Boleyn. And I go, okay, that was Henry VIII's second wife. And the way you remember what happened to his 6 wives is divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, and so I go, all right, so she's number 2, so she was beheaded.
My God. Oh my God.
So I sit down on this bench.
You're talking about Henry VIII, right?
Yeah, Henry VIII, yeah.
Henry VIII, I am. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, Henry VIII, okay. He had 6 wives. He was a
Right.
monster.
Right, okay,
He was like the anti-Me Too movement, all right?
Right, I'm with you.
All right, so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, gee, I wonder where Anne Boleyn was beheaded. Was it here at the Tower of London? And so I look to my left, and I see this beautiful, very, very modern glass sculpture. It was about maybe 20 feet in diameter. It was like this giant glass circle, and it had like this, it looked like a glass pillow mounted on the top of it. And I'm joking to myself, I guess they're all out of glass slippers, because, the Cinderella and all. So I get up and I walk over to it, and I look down, and it says Anne Boleyn.
Oh my God.
And then I read it, and it was a monument to the people who had been wrongfully executed and unjustly executed. And that was the site where Anne Boleyn had been beheaded. And I'm like, okay, it's drizzling, it's foggy, it's 40 degrees. I'm in the Tower of London. I'm feeling this energy echo. It was the best St. Patrick's Day ever for me. I mean, because some people be like, to me, it was fascinating because I'm an investigator and a researcher. And so I was thinking, well, is her spirit here? Is this the residual energy echo? Right. So I asked one of the, the guys in the red uniforms, the beefeaters, and it's funny because I always remember seeing like beefeater gin. Well, they're a real thing. And I asked to go, so where's Queen Anne Boleyn buried? He goes, oh, it's over there, mate. So I walked in. They won't let you take pictures there. But I did go to her grave, and I knelt there, and and I said a prayer because it was very, very tragic what happened to her. Because Henry divorced his first wife, started a big fight with the Pope, Catherine of Aragon, and talk about a dysfunctional family. I mean, she was the daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella. So you just don't divorce their daughter. So that touches off a whole thing. Marries his mistress, Anne. She can't produce a male heir, only a daughter. So he has her beheaded and so on and so forth. But for all of our female listeners, I think Anne had the last laugh because Henry wanted a male heir. Never really got one. The male that he did have died, when he was very young. And ultimately his successor was his daughter with Anne Boleyn, and she was the greatest ruler Britain ever had, Queen Elizabeth the First.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Isn't that? Yeah.
So you think, what I'm picking up are residual energy, you don't think people are in between, you think they come back?
Yeah, I think that they'll come back and visit, particularly if there are people grieving them. Okay. Because that draws them to them. But as far as the spirit being stuck here, it's like, energy cannot be created nor destroyed, only transferred from one form to another. Right. Okay. Energy doesn't get sick, old, tired, or die. And I've been by the bedside of many people who've died, and they're out right away, and they can communicate right away. But the reason that I recommend in my books and my website to wait 4 to 6 months after the passing, it's not before you do a reading. It's not the spirit, it's the recipient. And
they can't handle it. Yeah.
They can't handle it. I mean, if they're hysterical crying and so overcome with emotions, they're not going to get anything out of the reading because they're not going to be able to pay attention. But in about 6 months, you're going to stabilize to the point where you will be able to. So that's why, because at some mediums, like, oh, they have to go through their orientation and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, stop it with that Victorian era primitive.
I know. People think they all know. I hate that. It kind of drives me crazy too.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about pure electromagnetic energy that moves at the speed of light. Okay. So if they had an orientation, it would be 0.0000000001 seconds in our reckoning.
Well,
Okay, so they had it. Okay, you
I
know.
want to, I want to bring, you're so funny, Mark. I want to bring up one thing that you said on my last show, but it really resonated with me. And I want to tell the audience again about contacting their loved ones. And, you also talk about it in the book. You say it's like an AM FM radio. And I love this analogy because you say that when you bring your frequency up, they bring theirs down. That's how you
Exactly.
can connect. And can you talk about that? We got about 2 minutes.
Sure, absolutely. Think of our world as AM radio. It has energy, frequency, vibration, but it's at a slower frequency. And the other side, the afterlife frequency, is FM radio, much more rapid vibration. And that spirit communication is when we bring our vibration up out of AM, they bring theirs down out of FM, and you get a frequency match.
Yes. And that's how you can talk to your loved ones. I love it. Hey, this is Nancy Yearout. I'm here today with Mark Anthony. The book is The Afterlife Frequency. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back. Okay. Hi, this is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Mark Anthony. We're having a really great conversation about the afterlife. Mark, so if we do want to get in contact with our loved ones, we can do it. A lot of people say it's better to do it like between 3 and 5 a.m. when the veil is thinner. Is that true?
No. I love it too. And you know why 3 and 5 a.m. maybe it's because there's fewer distractions. It all has to do with your awareness.
Okay.
It's like anyone can be enlightened sitting on a mountaintop in Hawaii.
Mhm.
Try being enlightened when you're stuck in a traffic jam in LA. You got to pee and there's nowhere to go and you're stressing and you've got to be at your appointment in 5 minutes and that's not going to happen. Now there's the real test. All right, now try being spiritual then. Very, very difficult. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's difficult. And, and forgive the analogy, but I think everyone can relate to that one because we've all been there. Yeah, you're on top of a mountain. Oh, I'm one with God. Well, duh. I mean, it's beautiful here. You don't have the distractions. You have the beauty, the clarity, the peace. It's like when people say, oh, Halloween, the veil between this side and the other side. And, because I'm always invited on a lot of Halloween shows. I mean, what's scarier than a lawyer that sees dead people, right? So but the thing is, so what you're telling me is not just the universe, but the multiverses and other dimensions are dependent upon a Dark Ages Northern European agricultural observance.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
The thing is, the other side is not a nebulous, distant dimension. It coincides with our dimension, and it's all a matter of vibration and perception. That's why when we open up to receive the messages, they come like that.
Right.
Okay. That so they're not orbiting Alpha Centauri 4 light years away.
Thank you.
They're here.
Well, you just make so much sense, about a lot of these things. And you're right. When I tune in, the messages come immediate. I think the hardest thing that I've had personally, and I think a lot of people have had, is getting the messages for myself. It's easy for me to do a reading for you.
Right. Well, we can't read our own energy,
Talk about that, Mark, because I'm having the toughest time. And somebody said, Nancy, you don't trust yourself enough. And I'm like, I can spew everything out for you, but it's really difficult when I try to do it for me.
Well, look at it this way. If you needed to take out your own appendix, would you do it?
No.
Exactly. Okay.
Thanks, Mark. I feel better.
By analogy, it's the same way, because like, when I open up and like my parents will come to me or close friends that have died and other family members, I have a hard time. Is that really them or is that my wishful thinking?
See,
And part of it is that the objectivity is removed. When I'm doing a reading for somebody else, I can be objective and I'm not emotionally distracted or involved, so I can be the conduit for the information coming through. And so when we try to read for ourselves, it's also a vibrational thing, because now it's like, how are we aligning our frequency with our frequency? It's already our frequency, as opposed to, because in a reading, think of a triangle. The other side is at the top.
Right.
we're over here, and
Hmm.
the client's over here. So it's a three-way functionality here.
Yeah.
And usually the problem when there's a difficulty in the reading is the recipient. They're,
They're
you know,
blocking it.
no, 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 I don't understand this. I don't want to talk
I've
about
had that
this.
too. I've had that one time where somebody was like that, and I think they blocked the energy. Is that right, Mark?
That's exactly what they do. It's
Okay.
exactly what they do.
Okay.
Or they
Thank you.
overanalyze everything or overinterpret. Like I was doing a reading the other day for this
Mhm.
guy, and his sister spirit came through, and I said, she's talking about a basket of peaches. No, 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 no. I go, well, I just don't fling out random fuzzy fruit hoping to get a hit. Are you sure? He goes, no, no, no. Well, after she died, I thought I'd go visit her children. And, I showed up and I brought them a basket of peaches.
She's
I said,
acknowledging that. Oh my God.
thank you. I said, let's back up a bit. He goes, well, I guess that could be it.
Oh my
I
goodness.
said, now, if I said bananas, that would be a definite no. But the thing is, and then he finally realized, oh, wow, she was
Mhm.
there, And
Mhm.
then a lot of times I don't understand what comes through. This happened last
Right.
week. I was doing a reading for this gentleman,
Okay.
and his father came through, and I kept hearing two snakes, two snakes. All right. So I'm thinking, all right, there must be something with snakes. And he's like, well, I don't have a snake story. I go, well, my interpretation is, the medical symbol where you
Oh
have the
yeah,
graph
right.
with the two snakes.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
goes, yeah, but nobody in my family's medical, and I'm not dealing with any medical issues. And he goes, I think it's Native American. This was a phone reading, so I couldn't see him. I go, why do you say that? He goes, well, I'm of Native American descent. I go, okay, well,
Oh,
just make a note of it. Anyway, next morning, he and his wife sent me an email. He is part of the Sioux Nation, which literally means two snakes.
oh my God.
I didn't know that. And he wrote, he goes, I didn't know this either. They looked
Oh
it
my
up, and
gosh.
they took a picture from the book in the particular tribe that he is part of, this nation.
Yeah,
The name of it is Two Snakes. And
I
I
love it.
love it when things that I don't know come through
Right.
like that. And he was and he said, I didn't know it either. All I knew is that my family was of the Sioux Nation. I didn't
Right.
realize that meant two snakes.
That's interesting. You did a reading for me, and there's a couple things that I'm still trying to figure out, and I'm sure it'll come eventually, but I kind of keep it in the back of my mind because I know how good you are at what you do. There's a story I want you to tell about the collective consciousness, and it's a story you tell in the book about the children. You went to a bookstore, if you don't mind telling that story, just because I think it was really awesome.
Yeah. I was in New York City, and I was on a speaking tour there, and I had an appearance on an MSNBC show.
Okay.
And it was interesting because right after we landed, we got a call, and my manager, Rocky, set it up. They said it was a small group and they're going to do it at this bookstore. And
Okay.
it just happened to work out on my schedule. Well, we couldn't get a taxi because it was 40 degrees and raining. Okay. For somehow, I could put up with that in London a lot easier than New York City. We were just freezing. We were chilled to the bone. But Rocky used to live in New York, so she knew, like, okay, let's go down the street. And like, she got us there. It was like 6 blocks, and we're walking and we're freezing. And I go, we're being followed. And she's like, Mark, it's New York City. There's people everywhere. I go, we're being followed. She goes, oh. I said, I feel like there's children, spirits of children with me.
Mhm.
So we get to the bookstore, and it was nice and warm, and they get us in our area in the back, and there was 24 chairs, and then 24 people came in. They sat down, and after my introductory comments, I opened up to Afterlife Frequency, and the first spirit to come through is a child. And I start describing it, and somebody said, yeah, that's my little boy. And then the next spirit was a little girl, and then spirit after spirit were children. And I said, wait a second. I go, how many people here have lost a child? Every hand in the room went up. And this gentleman said, we're a grief support group for parents who've
Whoa.
lost children. And we heard that you were coming. And that's why we reached out. Okay. And so this is part of what I call collective consciousness communication. That collective, that group of spirits, they had a commonality. They were all children
And they
who
knew you
had
were
died.
coming. They knew you
They
were
knew I
coming.
was coming,
Yeah.
and the recipients all had a commonality. They were all parents who lost children. And collective consciousness communication is one of the new terms that I introduce in the Afterlife Frequency. And there's many different facets to it, but that was one of them. Because what I've seen is that oftentimes there may be a commonality between the spirits, like maybe how they died, or in this case, the age range of when they died, or commonality to the recipients. It's like I was doing an event in Orlando, and I was in front of about 150 people, and I said mesothelioma. It comes to my mind. 5 hands go up.
Oh
My
my
father,
gosh.
my brother, my uncle, my grandfather, all that, they all died of mesothelioma. Okay. And so all the mesothelioma spirits came through, and then they separated out. And the first one, okay, I started giving information about how he died and what happened and what was relevant to that person. And then I felt the energy arc over to the next person, arc over to the next person. And that's how collective consciousness communication works. So
That's
anyway,
interesting.
yeah, it's very interesting. But what it is, they're part of infinity. And I'm a finite human being with a finite perception. And they know that I can't possibly grasp infinity. So what they do is a group of them will come through. And another facet of collective consciousness communication, let's say, Nancy, that we're doing a group reading and I do a reading for you.
Mhm.
Okay. And okay, it's making sense to you and you're getting it. But what is being transmitted to you resonates with 8 other people. It touches their heartstrings. They feel that that was meant for them. Guess what? It was. And
Yeah.
spirits know that. So your Aunt Betty may be the spokesperson for the collective, and they're piggybacking on top of this several other messages designed specifically to hit these 8 other people.
I
And
love
I have
it.
seen this hundreds of times.
That's
So
really
it's
cool.
really cool.
That's really cool. Hey, listen, we got to get out of here in a minute, but I want to ask you, gosh, this is the last question. With everything going on with the COVID, have you gotten any messages as far as, is this thing done? Are we through this?
I've been getting messages about it for 6 months before it happened.
Right.
And that would take me too long to explain everything. What they're telling me is that continue to wear your armor, continue to wear your armor. And I said, what do you mean by armor? They go, your mask, your vax, your mask, your vax. And they said, and they're
And they
showing
don't
me,
see anything wrong with the vaccination.
no. In fact, I've done readings for people and all their spirits show up and they're all holding hypodermic needles. And the person said, well, I've been debating it and I didn't know. I said, look, I'm not getting into the vaccine debate. I'm just
Mhm.
telling you what they're saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
no,
I
I'm
try to
curious.
maintain
That's why I
objectively.
ask you. Yeah.
And well, what I do know about the mRNA technique, it's been around for decades. It's just that they had to adjust it for this particular version of it. Coronaviruses are not a new thing. And the
Mhm.
mRNA, and what it does is it gets into your cell, to your RNA, to prevent the virus from replicating. Okay,
So what you're getting spiritually, though, we got to get out of here. I'm sorry, Mark.
Yeah,
But what you're getting
spiritually,
spiritually, that it's okay.
yeah, they're saying spiritually it's okay. And they said,
Interesting.
wear your armor, your mask, it said, and
Interesting.
then it will fade away.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. What else do you want to leave us with today before we get out of here?
Well, the Afterlife Frequency teaches everyone how to recognize, accept, feel, and trust messages from spirits. It's not about turning you into a medium, because not everyone is a medium, but everybody can benefit from a mediumistic experience, and the Afterlife Frequency teaches you how to do that. And this is a difficult time of the year for people coping with loss. We got the holidays upon us.
Right.
And if you know somebody who is suffering with the loss of a loved one, this would be the ideal gift for that person, because it does help people struggling with grief, the loss of a child, people who've lost loved ones to homicide, suicide, people that
Mhm.
are dealing with survivor's guilt and post-traumatic stress disorder. And you can find out more about booking a reading with me, signing up for my newsletter, ordering my book at afterlifefrequency.com.
Perfect. And if you want a psychic reading from me, go to nancyyearout.com. We got to get out of here for today. Mark, thanks so much for coming on today. I really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me back. God bless you.
God bless you. We have so much fun. Hey, you guys, it's Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity. Everybody take care and God bless. We'll see you next time.
Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the higher road.
Hey, you guys, join me next week on The High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future. Have a fabulous week and know that by staying on the high road, you will make it to your destination. Visit my website, nancyyearout.com, where you can book a private session to learn how to tap into your own abilities. And check out my YouTube channel. It's Nancy Yearout's High Road to Humanity.
You can achieve your goal.